liar. I'm always at fault. I'm the betrayer. I'm the double crosser. I'm always the freaking scumbag in the situation. Not this time. I'm right. I'm right. I'm in the right. And you blame me. Screw you.
It sounds to me like we have some fellow bad guys in the audience here in Nebraska. And A-Town Down Under, very interesting. But you want to talk about Sami Zayn? Let's talk about Sami Zayn. No doubt about it, he's got a guilty conscience with his participation in the reign of terror from the OG bloodline, and he just wants to make the right decision. Ladies and gentlemen, do you feel that Sami Zayn made the right decision turning down Seth Rollins last Monday night on Raw? Mixed reactions, shades of gray. I like that. You know what? I can't judge. I'm no saint. As a matter of fact, some people have even referred to me as a killer. But I'll say this. I'm nobody special. I'm just the devil you know versus the devils you don't. Kathy, what do you think? What would you do in this situation? Would you join Seth Rollins?
I mean, he didn't pose the question to me, but you do leave Omaha with a lot to think about, so thank you so much.
Such a cop-out, such a cop-out. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think Kathy would have joined Seth Rollins had he asked her?
Well, on that note, I think we should get back to the action. Thank you so much.
The following contest is scheduled for one fall. Introducing first, from Ecatepec, Mexico, weighing in at 87 kilos, Penta!
Hey, Pat, check it out. You're hearing a new version of Penta's theme featuring one of the greatest guitarists of all time, Adam Jones from Grammy Award-winning band Tool, using a specific playing technique that has been heard since the early 90s and around the globe. Penta's theme, The Fire Is Coming, will be available on music platforms soon.
The song's a banger, the flames are hot, and Penta's the real deal.
And Penta's in action against J.D. McDonough of the Judgment Day, live on Netflix.
In 3, 2, 1, clap.
Huh?
Benoit balls.
I still think Kevin Sullivan did it.
I'm Aubrey Edwards. I'm not a wrestler.
Tony's quick sniffs of the week.
No, just my dickhead friends causing concussions and shit. All right, never mind.
There's barbecue sauce. So good, half a face on work.
With Hogan that close up on the fucking camera reminds me of my racist uncle. I know you ain't listening, but you know who you are, you fucking racist.
Uncle. Oh my God, for real, don't tell me that's his name. Oh, no way. I was kidding. I swear to God. I'm scared. It was just the first thing that came to my head. It was the first thing.
Welcome to the Top of Wrestling with your hosts ODM and the Professor.
Good Wrestling Day. That's right, it's another ODM solo show. At this rate, the way that the Professor's going, I think I'm going to be doing like the next month's worth of shows solo. We'll see how that goes. Maybe the gods are trying to tell him to not come back to New York. But seriously, come back! Anyway, let's get on with the show. I'm actually really excited for today. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Now, there's a ton of releases. I've got a very long list of Hogan's lies over the years. Don't get insulted, Brother Rocker. None of them have to do with him being racist. We've got the Monday Night Wars, including Slamboree 2000, where David Arquette defends the WCW World title in the three-tiered cage from the movie Ready to Rumble. I didn't just make that up. That's a real thing. And we got our top topic. Now, I am not going to say what that top topic is because I want to keep the professor in suspense. I think it's something we talked about doing before, and we just passed on it for some reason. But anyways, I'm really excited to talk about it. So let's get right into the news. We'll start with a bright spot. Duke the Dumpster Droese, his real name is Mike Droese, was indicted on attempted aggravated sexual exploitation charges. He attempted to purchase child sexual assault material, child pornography, on the dark web. I not the person off the top of my head I thought would have been savvy with the dark web, but okay. His attempted purchase was flagged and canceled. He later peacefully submitted himself to the Warren County Sheriff's Department in Tennessee, and he was booked on the charges, then immediately released upon making bond. Yeah, sure. You know, we missed the first part of the wars. We're gonna circle back when we finish and get to the end, but we'll be seeing him for a brief cup of coffee, and I'm guessing a jail cell will too. Anyway, Big Papa Pump's back at it. He dropped another math promo on X, the X, as the professor calls it. Oh, and speaking of, make sure you check us out on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, Amazon Music, Pandora, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and the X. So here's Big Papa Pump's tweet, and I'm really going to give this a go, and hopefully it works out pretty good. Let's say you get 100 average men, no weapons, no training, just fear in their eyes and dad bods in their way. Then you get one full-grown silverback gorilla, 600 pounds of pure rage, muscle, and tree-ripping power. Now here comes the truth. Out of those 100 men, maybe 25% don't even show up once they see the gorilla. That's 25 cowards eliminated immediately. Then you get 33 and a third of them just trying to talk it out. They're done. Another 20% just stand there frozen, pissing their pants. Now you're left with about 21 guys panicked, half committed, and getting launched like lawn darts. But what if Big Papa Pump's in the mix? You just tip the freaking scale. Now it's not 100 men versus one gorilla. It's one gorilla versus the genetic freak. And that spells disaster for that gorilla. Sweet baby Jesus, I'm amazed I got through that. Sorry you all had to hear that. We're going to circle back on a piece of news from last week. We talked about Hogan and Bischoff teasing something in the old black and white NWO style vignette. We all assumed it was going to be a podcast and it would probably be Nash as the third man because, you know, that would make sense given they're doing this whole NWO thing. No, it's even lamer than that. I read this on Cultaholic. They're launching Real American Freestyle with wrestling coach Izzy Martinez is the third man. Who? It's going to be a freestyle wrestling league which features elements of pro wrestling, notably storytelling and colorful characters. Hogan's going to be the commissioner of Real American Freestyle. Bischoff's going to be the league's chief media officer, and Izzy Martinez will be the brand's chief operating officer. Former UFC fighter Ben Askren, former Olympian Kennedy Blades, and former national champion Zahid Valencia have all been announced for the new league. It's going to feature 8 men's weight classes and 4 women's weight classes. And the first event's planned for August 30th in Cleveland. That's according to the AP News. They're going to receive, you know what, nobody cares where their money's coming from. But Real American Beer is going to be the title sponsor, naturally. Speaking of Hogan, here's a recent lie that came out and some of his most famous lies over the years. Recently, in speaking with TMZ, Hogan claimed he was the first person to wrestle Brock Lesnar after he left the UFC. Hogan said, quote, "I've been in the ring with some really crazy wrestlers. Like, I got Brock Lesnar right after he left the UFC. I got in first," end quote. Lesnar and Hogan wrestled once. And that was in 2002, 6 years before Lesnar debuted in the UFC. Lesnar left at 2011, and he left the UFC in 2011, and Hogan was in TNA at that point. And after Lesnar left the UFC, Hogan only wrestled 3 more matches, and they were all in TNA. Okay, so there's one. I'm going to have to take a big sip for this one, so just bear with me here. Okay, I got a long list here. These are some of Hogan's most famous lies over the year. Holy shit, this is a long list. He said he was an all-state pitcher in high school, scouted by the Yankees and the Reds, but an injury prevented him from signing with either team. Randy Savage played for the Reds minor league team. He was actually on a baseball card, so he probably pulled it from that. He said he was the first person to notice Kevin Owens' potential. Nope. He said he rewrote the scripts for Santa with Muscles and Mr. Nanny, but he got screwed on the writing credit by the Writers Guild. Okay. He said he used to fight Pride fighters in the 70s. Pride was founded in 1997. Okay. There's the Andre the Giant slam story. Most people know this. If you don't, I'll break it down like this. He said he was the first to slam Andre. He said Andre weighed 600 pounds at the time, and that Andre died a week later. He died 6 years after that, and according to Jim Cornette, he was around 500 pounds at that time. Hogan also says he tore 18 muscles in his back from slamming Andre. Major bullshit. Yeah, Andre had been slammed before by Hogan, let alone countless others. So, yeah, no, not at all. This is one of my favorites. He partied with Jim Belushi after WrestleMania 2 in 1986. Belushi died in 1982. There's the lie about Taker causing permanent damage from hitting the tombstone on the chair. We all know this story. Taker was a young buck at the time. He just took Hogan for his word. Years later, he saw the tape. He's like, dude, his head didn't even touch the chair. So there's that. Another one of my favorites. Hulk put out an album called Hulk Rules, and there's a track on there called Hulkster in Heaven. I almost want to put this in there. I think I might have to. I don't know. But anyway, the track is based on him going to the UK, meeting a Make-A-Wish kid, getting him tickets to see SummerSlam, to see Hogan wrestle in the main event. Hogan wasn't there. He wasn't on the fucking card. He wasn't even in the fucking country, probably. So there's that. He was asked to join a startup company called UFC, but he wouldn't join because guys got beat up when the fight should stop. Sure. He said while he was in WCW, he was supposed to face Tyson in a shoot fight, but Tyson was too scared. There were talks about Tyson coming to WCW, but Vince got him first. There's about the only truth in that statement. He said he didn't get the offer for the George Foreman grill because he was picking up his kids from school. Yeah. There's the ever famous he wrestled 400 days in 1 year because he traveled between U.S. and Japan so frequently that the international date line made that possible. Nope. He says Elvis was a huge Hogan fan before he joined the WWF. Hogan did wrestle in Memphis, and Elvis was a noted wrestling fan, but Elvis died in 1977. So, no. Another fun one, Metallica and the Rolling Stones wanted him as the bass player. He says that Lars Ulrich came up to him personally and asked. I've seen enough Metallica documentaries that I know that when they were searching for a new bass player, it certainly did not involve Hulk Hogan. He says, this is a weird one. Like, I don't even know why you would say this. He said he was offered and turned down a Legends match at WrestleMania 22 versus Greg Valentine. No. He was blacklisted from Hollywood for denying a gay producer's advances in the 80s. Nope. Came up with the idea of the NWO all himself, but he wanted it to be the Booty Man and the Nasty Boys. Yeah. One of the most out-of-pocket ones. Harley Race came into arena where Hogan was wrestling in the 80s with a gun and set the ring on fire. Then he ran into Hogan and thanked him for all he had done for wrestling and asked him for a job. I did so much research this week, I did not even bother to do like the research of like the timelines and everything on this one, but I'm guessing that there is so much wrong with that statement. He sat next to Kerry Von Erich on a flight to Japan 72 hours before Kerry killed himself. Nope. He said he was responsible for the WWF first selling merch, and he had to talk Vince into it. If you didn't know better, this one might get by, because we all remember probably the first thing wrestling that most of us bought was a Hulk Hogan thing. But no, they were selling merch before that. He was banned from Letterman because he stopped Letterman from hitting on Linda Hogan. He used to be 6'9", but now he's only 6'4" for all the back injuries and surgeries. He thinks he's fucking Cotton Hill. One of my personal favorites. He was going to commit suicide, gun in hand, and then he got a call from Layla Ali. And he took that as a sign that he should live. The pauses are so the professor has a chance to start laughing. He wanted to drop the title to Piper in 85, but he didn't think Piper would be willing to drop the title back to him. I think the second half of that's true. He wanted to turn heel on the Warrior at Mania 6, but Vince stopped him. This is a deep cut. Some of you might not know the reference, but Tatsumi Fujinami tried to shoot on him in Japan and steal the WWF title, but Hogan shot back and won. And then the coup de grace. The Arsenio Hall show, where he was asked if he did steroids, and he said, "I'm not a steroid user or abuser." Then he went on to explain the few times that he, the few times that he did take steroids and how he did it. It's like OJ writing that book. Never mind. All right. That was a long list, but that was just too good to pass up. I just suggest, if you really want that list to be done justice, just YouTube Cornette. That's Cornette. Cornette Hogan's Lies. You'll get a video. It's like 27 minutes long. It's just listening to them react to them. It's priceless. Go search that out. Piece of news nobody probably cares about, but the professor and I talked about it at the end of last show off air. And we just had a chuckle about it, so I wanted to throw it in there. We use Podbean. We mentioned Podbean because why the fuck else would you promote your podcast on there? Because they're our distribution site. That's what we use, kayfabe pal. And they've got a pretty, solid website. It shows you, where people are listening, how many people are downloading and stuff. That part's kind of depressing, but we looked at recent distribution stats, and this is over the last month. And we've got an international audience. Now, it could be due to the use of a VPN. That's certainly possible. But anyway, it's fun to just go over the numbers. USA, over the last month, 135 downloads. That makes sense. Well, not really, but the UK, 9, Canada, 4, Mexico, 3, Netherlands, 3, France, Latvia, Poland, Romania, Taiwan, and Ukraine, 2. Australia, Dominica, Iran, I don't care that my listeners are from Iran, Lithuania, Nigeria, Sweden, and Singapore, 1. Either way, shout out to our Latvian and Romanian peeps. Question for you guys. You want to be text buddies with Mercedes Moné? Me neither. But if you're a mark and a simp, you can sign up for $99.99 a month to supposedly have a direct line to Mercedes Moné via text. If you totaled up that cost to be yearly, assuming that there's no discounts for subscribing yearly, that would be $1,198.88. I swear to Christ, why would you? I would sign up for a month just to troll her. And we're going to end on what typically would be a TK sniff of the week, but it wasn't TK, so you can't really blame it on him. Hayabusa debuted for Lucha Fiesta Especial at Ryogoku Kokugikan in Tokyo, Japan on Sunday, April 27th. For those of you who don't know, Hayabusa is a wrestler that became famous in FMW, Onita's FMW. Frontier Martial Wrestling, I think, something like that. I don't remember. Hayabusa is a big name in wrestling history if you don't know. I mean, fucking half of Seth Rollins' moveset is stuff that Hayabusa debuted, came out with, invented. Very famous wrestler. And luchadors often pass on the character and mask on to other wrestlers. Fuck, look at La Parka. We'll be talking about him later. At least the Volanos just added a number every time there's a new one. Here's the problem. Like La Parka, I get it. It's the gimmick lives on, and that's fine. The thing is, La Parka didn't almost die and get paralyzed during a match, ending his career. That's what happened to Hayabusa. How the fuck are you going to resurrect a character that got paralyzed in a match and just be like, yeah, enough time's passed, we can do another one? I don't know. It seems a bit off to me. This is really hard with one person. It's like you're talking to yourself. I hate it. You know what, Professor, as a shout out, I actually put in the results for New Japan Dontaku 2025, a 2-night event, because they gotta keep doing fucking 2-night events. There's really no title changes. There was a War Dogs House of Torture match where the loser leaves Bullet Club. But War Dogs won. I didn't know if House of Torture was another faction of Bullet Club. I don't care. They haven't been relevant. I only wear the shirt because I think it looks cool at this point. Contract news is where we're going to get some of our big stuff here. I don't even know where to start. Chelsea Green's re-signed with WWE. This is via Fightful Select. No word on the terms of the contract. I hear it's a multi-year deal. That's the only thing that I saw specifically, but good to see she's sticking around. All right. Well, we've done like Black Thursday, Black Friday, Black Tuesday. We've done so many release notes. It's almost, not surprising anymore. The one that was a bit surprising was Dakota Kai. The word is, just on the dirt sheets and on the internets is that, she was the big surprise. She definitely was very injury prone. She kind of got lost in Damage Control. It seemed like they were trying to push her recently. You could tell it was kind of like a tryout, and she's gone. It's unfortunate. She had a lot of potential, especially, back in NXT at her feud with Tegan Nox. But, it just wasn't paying off. Braun Strowman is the best one. This is the second time this motherfucker's been fired in like 5 years. The word is on him is he had the high money contract. So, and, at this point, they were bringing him out like that Big Show. So, Shayna Baszler, that's unfortunate. That's a damn shame. I've always been a big Shayna Baszler fan. They could have done so much with her, but they just didn't because I guess she didn't fit the mold. Caden Carter and Katana Chance. They were a tag team, and, they were starting to get some main roster time a little bit, and then they kind of faded away. Cora Jade from NXT. She's already started on OnlyFans, so the same simps that are signing up for a Mercedes Moné text line, you can sign up there too. Gigi Dolan, I might check out that. Eddie Thorpe, Jakara Jackson, Riley Osborne, Oro Mensah, Javier Bernal, I wanted to say Javier Bardem, Joe Coffey, Mark Coffey, Wolfgang, and Danny Palmer. Obviously, a lot of those are NXT talents. We don't necessarily know them. Interesting note, main roster talents are subject to a 90-day non-compete clause. NXT have a 30-day. Shotzi, there's been some rumors on her that they're not renewing her contract and that she'll leave when her deal expires. She's posted on X that she has a good amount of time left on her contract, and in a separate tweet said July she will be full-time balls to the wall. Take that for what it is. Another rumor going around is that Nakamura's contract is set to expire and will not be renewed, but this has been disputed in various articles, so take it for what it's worth. I haven't seen anything definitive on that. And then in the what TF moment of the fucking day, AAA, which is owned by WWE, and I'd like to clarify that I'm saying AAA because this is probably where these wrestlers will be, but every report I've seen has said WWE has signed these wrestlers to contract. El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., El Hijo del Vikingo, La Parca, yes, La Hierda, Lady Flammer, Lady Maravilla, and Nino Hamburguesa. Jesus, that's harder than the Japanese names. There's one more. It's Alberto Del Rio. Huh? I don't get this. This is just, as far as melon scratchers go, this is a honeydoodle. I just don't get it. Especially since last week, the professor's like, yeah, he lost the fucking title as soon as they bought the company. Yeah, and we're both like, no big surprise. Brother Marty, I guess this is where I'll give you your penance. I don't care about Hogan being racist. I care about Alberto Del Rio being a piece of shit from everything we've ever seen from him in the last, 15 years. Yeah, no, this guy needs to go away. He can wrestle on fucking donkey shows and TJ. That's probably about all he's worth at this point. So, yeah, lots of contract news this week. We'll go to our results from the moment of the week. I don't have a ton in here. Dynamite and Collision. I looked at the results up and said, meh. I saw a picture. Toni Storm lied on her side in the middle of the ring. That was worth it right there. SmackDown, the only thing I have is they had a match, Phoenix and Santos Escobar. I was kind of excited for this one. I figured the styles would go good together, and while I don't really necessarily care about the program, I thought it would be a good match. It was a letdown. It's one of those things that I always said. I thought Phoenix had, was a better wrestler, and that Penta was kind of just like the attraction. I'm kind of reversing that now. I'm all in on Penta, man. And I'll just throw that out there. Yeah, Penta, I'll get to that in a second. So we'll go to Monday Night Raw. Heyman confronts Jey Uso at the beginning of the show, fucking freaks out. And he says that Rollins wants the title. He wants a match and tells Uso, you pick the time and the place. And Uso says, let's do it tonight. Yeet. Penta literally kicked the shit out of JD McDonough. Professor and I were not watching it. Wheezy and I were watching it. And we were just popping left and right because Penta was just laying the shit in. McDonough can sell brilliantly. I really do like McDonough. And he literally was just kicking him left and right. It was fucking brilliant. Loved it. And Penta has new entrance music. We played it on the intro. And it is complete with guitar from Adam Jones of Tool. That's fucking awesome. If you guys don't know, I'm a huge fan of Tool. Both of my kids are big fans of Tool. We've seen them live a couple times. Yeah, so that's fucking dope as hell. Becky Lynch screamed a bunch, and Lyra Valkyria sounded like she was crying. That sums up their promo back and forth. Becky Lynch is like almost going out of her way to have a more annoying promo than Seth Rollins. So I guess it runs in the family. Io Sky defeated Roxanne Perez in a non-title match. Julia and Perez jump Io post-match. Hooray. Gunther and Pat McAfee had a face-to-face. McAfee cut another decent promo. He went on rambling a bit much, just trying to pop the crowd and talking about the local shit around there. They were in Omaha, Nebraska, and, he talked about the football team, and he says, Omaha's got the best meat in the world. Nobody beats their meat. Do you get it? Do you get it? Okay. And then your main event, it was Seth versus Jey Uso for the world title. It ended in a DQ. It was just a big schmoz. There was interference from CM Punk. And then after they went off the air, Jey Uso was attacked by Logan Paul. They got their title match coming up at Backlash this Saturday. And speaking of Backlash, let's talk about the card. As of now, I only see 4 matches. Typically for these, B pay-per-views, they do 5 matches. That's what they've been doing. 4? I'm kind of interested because the thing is, these matches, none of them I don't feel like are going to go long. You know what I mean? I really feel like the first one might go long because it's a 4-way. That's Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest versus LA Knight. Fatal 4-way for the U.S. Championship. Maybe they're going to give that time. Maybe they're going to add one on SmackDown. They'll announce one. That'd be my only guess. I feel like you need another match to kind of round this out because this is not a very exciting pay-per-view. You get Lyra Valkyria. Also, I'll give my predictions while I'm here. Air quotes, predictions. Jacob Fatu's going to retain. Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch for the Women's IC Championship. Becky Hogan's winning this. She's, you know what? She's not the young Lynch, the young Becky's. I don't. She's just no. She's winning the title. I don't see her putting Lyra over. So, whatever. We'll see. Then you're going to get the Pat McAfee versus Gunther match. Gunther is going to start. McAfee will have some flurries. Gunther will take over for a big time. You're going to get a lot of hope spots for McAfee. He'll do a high spot or two. Gunther's going to win. Gunther's ultimately just going, or he's going to squash him. I prefer he just squashes them. Less than 5 minutes. You know what I mean? That's why I'm saying we need another match here because the only other match we got is your main event. It's Orton versus Cena for the championship. Cena's retaining. He's not dropping the title to Orton. That just ain't. Ray ain't coming home. So there is that. And I'm not going to lie to you. Now that we've gotten through all of that, we're going to go to a table for one. Though I might have somebody in spirit with me.
Just bring it, bitch!
Oh my God!
Well, this is going to be a fun one. I get to read a lot more. So, was at Wheezy's on Friday. Q was there. Mrs. Wheezy was there. And Whiskey Man was there. And as soon as I came in, Wheezy and Whiskey Man were all like, oh, God, he's got some predictions. You're going to have to listen to this. And I immediately rolled my eyes because I knew where this one was going. So he gave me some air quotes predictions. When I say air quotes predictions, I'll clear that up for you in a minute. This is what I initially wrote down, and I feel like it changed as it went on. Okay? So it's similar, but it's not. Uso beating John Cena at Money in the Bank for the title. Uso's going to lose the title to Joe Hendry at Victory Road. And at the end of the year in December, Cody will beat Cena at Saturday Night's Main Event. Those are some of them. He also backtracked on his call from last week that we talked about, saying that Orton was going to win the title from Cena at Backlash. He has flip-flopped on that. Well, I just happened to find an article from ESPN from Arda Okel on April 25th, 2025. Just so you have a frame of reference, the day that I saw Whiskey Man and he gave me these predictions was May 2nd, 2025. So a few days after that. And basically, this is an article by Arda Okel, who is projecting Cena's final matches in the WWE. Okay, so let's talk about this. Backlash, Cena defeats Orton. Seems pretty straightforward. That makes sense. Money in the Bank. Jey Uso defeats John Cena, World Heavyweight Championship. Huh. I thought somebody just talked to me about this. Now, this one does go on to say that it would be for Jay's title. So, Jay would win and retain. Also mentions a bunch of people showing up. The Rock, Cena, Rhodes, Travis Scott, Bad Bunny. All right, and that sets up the next one. One of the next ones. July 12th, Saturday Night's Main Event, John Cena defeats CM Punk. That's a duh to me. And again, Whiskey Man didn't mention anything about that, so I'm not pulling him into that, but I'm talking about this article because as far as I'm concerned, that's where the air quotes predictions came from. Okay, Cena facing Punk isn't like a revelation. That's not much of a prediction. This is Cena's farewell tour. He's facing Orton. Punk is next up pretty much. So that makes perfect sense. And it's a good place to do it. It doesn't need to be much. You know what I mean? It's going to be about the promos leading up. Here's one that Whiskey Man called out after he made his initial air quotes predictions. John Cena and Travis Scott defeat Cody Rhodes and Bad Bunny. We've already heard rumblings that Bad Bunny was going to show up. And unfortunately, it pains me to say this, it makes sense that you put him in a tag team match that has a wrestler and a musician, if that's what you want to call Travis Scott. This is not a big surprise. I don't necessarily want to see it on SummerSlam, but again, you want to draw viewers. It's a show to do it. Personally, I would think Cody and Bad Bunny would win. I feel like Cody's got to get some retribution on Travis Scott here. And the last pay-per-view just didn't do it. Or WrestleMania didn't do it. You know what I mean? It just, so. But again, that was a air quotes prediction. Another one. Joe Hendry beats John Cena by DQ at TNA Victory Road. Again, that sounds very familiar with somebody just said. One, Hendry versus Cena wouldn't be much of a shocker because either the night of the Royal Rumble after the Rumble was done, or the next day, Joe Hendry tweeted that he wanted to face John Cena. Okay, so if it happens, it's not really that much of a surprise. Here's my thing with this. I don't see John Cena showing up at TNA. Yes, some WWE talent have gone to TNA, but it's mostly NXT people. If anything, Hendry's going to come over to NXT and Cena. They'll send Cena down to NXT for a night or two, and they can have their match there. I just don't see Cena showing up on Victory Road. And Joe Hendry winning, whether by DQ or not, I don't see that. Hendry should eat the pin. You're the up-and-comer. But whatever. I don't know. That's just me. So again, that's, really out there. Crown Jewel, Cena defeats Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Whiskey Man didn't mention anything about that. And honestly, going back to the call of Uso versus Cena, they wouldn't do that at Money in the Bank. If anything, they would do it at Crown Jewel. That's typically where they'll do champion versus champion because it doesn't matter. It's just they're just doing it for the fucking Saudi crowd. That's it. So, there's that. And then there's the last call that Whiskey Man, air quotes, predicted. Saturday night's main event, Cody Rhodes defeats John Cena for the Undisputed Championship. So, yeah, there's that. This is, if Whiskey Man, you're saying that these were your unbridled, air quotes, predictions, so be it. But I'll tell you what, they suck. Because whatever Mark wrote this for ESPN doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's fantasy Mark booking, worse than Mark does. These are just hot takes. They vary from the this is going to happen to the what are you smoking? This doesn't make sense. So I don't know. It is what it is. Anyway, like I said, air quotes, predictions. So yeah, there you go. But I do know that somebody else wants to talk about this. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is the Professor.
Okay, reading something from an ESPN article and calling it a prediction, it's not a prediction. Predicting something, that's an out-of-pocket idea that you have that no one else has said yet. I mean, does this guy want to predict that WWE is going to be doing WrestleMania in New Orleans next year? I mean, hang on. Okay. Maybe he has had some pretty big predictions over the years. I mean, I'll never forget the time that he predicted the OG Moolah Screwjob incident. He said, nope, take the title off that bitch. I'll even never forget the time that he predicted that Owen Hart would fall from the top of the Kemper Arena all the way to the mat. He predicted that. Even more so, I will never forget the time that he predicted Vince McMahon would take a poo on each and every female employee that he's ever had, and that his son-in-law, Triple H, would take over the company. Let me tell you something, brother. First, now don't go playing coy and saying, I was messing with you guys. I just wanted to see if I can get a rise out of you. You weren't. And saying that is just going to show weakness. Being full of shit 24/7, it gets you nowhere in life. Try forming an original opinion. Just one time. Try it. Because at the end of the day, people, they don't like to stick around and keep listening to bullshit from a pathological liar. And generally, those pathological liars, they end up alone. And I'm going to tell you something, man. That is not a prediction. That is a spoiler.
Da-da-da, da-da-da. Let's go to the wars.
Monday Night Wars! Perry, how many times are we going to keep going over the same thing?
Dean, we're going to keep going over this until I'm happy with your answer. That's how.
Happy with my answer? What are you talking about? You know, as far as I'm concerned, we're even now.
Dean, if you're trying to piss me off, it's working.
What do you mean piss me off? Listen, what are you going to do? Cost me another match?
Keep pushing
Come on,
me.
you want to finish this?
What the hell's the matter with you two? We came here together. You put this stuff on the back burner because it stops here and now.
Hey, yeah, Mamacita, I'll be right with you. Hey, man, you know, what's the matter with you guys? Fighting and all that stuff. Besides, man, I know what the real problem is. You know, you may be a little frustrated. You never know. I'm gonna ask China. She might be able to introduce you to somebody, you know, maybe let's see one nota like she's and you. You're just as talented as all three of us, man. I know you want your title shot. You never know. If you're nice enough to Dean, he might give you a title shot one of these days. Hey, man, what's the matter with you guys? Go ask Mamacita these things, man. She knows best.
In on the thing. How about that? Is he all right?
Sorry, Paige, but you should know better than to trust someone from Hollywood. What's up? When I was on the set of Ready to Rumble with Paige, I told him that I had a dream to be a wrestler, and he said, "Shit!"
And here we are. I forgot to grab another beer on break, so I'm going to blow through this just so I can get another one. We're going to start the wars with Slamboree 2000 in Kansas City, Missouri, May 7th, 2000. We get a recap of Thunder. As a promo, Millionaires Club versus the New Blood. Bischoff wanted them to face each other 11 versus 11, and the last man standing gets a world title shot at the Great American Bash. I'm going to be completely transparent here. This was an absolute shit show seeing 22 people in the ring at once. It was a mess. It looked like Macho Man showed up at one point and Flair ended up winning. And the best part is Flair's still just wearing plain clothes in the ring. He's not putting his wrestling gear on anymore. We see a bus arriving to the arena. It's the Millionaires Club. New Blood's watching from the back. And Liz is still being held captive by the New Blood. We open up with Chris Candido with Tammy versus the artist formerly known as Prince Iaukea with Paisley for the Cruiserweight title. Tammy cuts her promo pre-match. At one point, Paisley shoves Tammy to the floor. Tammy goes to hit Paisley with the chair, but hits Iaukea instead. Ref counts 2. The bell rings. The music starts playing, and then immediately stops. Commentary calls out that it was only a 2 count. Tammy was halfway in the ring to celebrate and just had to bounce. And then Candido hits a pile driver and a flying headbutt and then gets the pin. Sure. And then Tammy gets her dress pulled off by Paisley, and she's wearing Spanx. A clear-cut indicator that WWE was willing to just pull off whatever, and they're like, well, we still have to keep it respectable here to some extent. We'll just drop blood from the ceiling. Next, you get Screamin' Norman Smiley and his mystery partner versus Terry Funk for the hardcore title. It's the same gimmick as before. Funk's looking for Smiley backstage, and he checks the bathroom, and he sees a masked man in the shitter. Smiley ambushes Funk with the fire extinguisher. The mystery partner's wearing a catcher's mask and a hood, so you can't see who it is. It's great at one point that the shit show just carries on to one part of the arena, and you see Mean Gene in the background in his tux just standing there watching. It's fucking hilarious. That's the best part of the match. They end up fighting the ramp, and it's revealed that the mystery partner is Ralphus. Of course. And then Ralphus does the wiggle to Funk. But Funk retains. So there you go. Gene greets David Arquette's limo as it arrives. He says he had to come along because DDP doesn't think he's a sports entertainer. He's scared. Next, you get Sean Stasiak versus Kurt Hennig. I never thought I'd see the day that I'd skip a Hennig match, but here we are. Stasiak wins. Hugh Morris versus Scott Steiner for the U.S. title. I don't... Hugh Morris cuts a promo pre-match, and he wants to be addressed by his real name. This isn't the John Tenta promo. His real name is Hugh G. Rection. Captain Rection, for short. So pretty humorous. His former stable's in the crowd. And I'm pretty sure this is at least the first time on Nitro. I don't know if they've done it on Thunder yet, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time Scott Steiner uses the siren entrance. I'm pretty sure. There's a ref I've never seen before. It looks like Opie Taylor, and Steiner wins. He goes nuts post-match, but Booker T makes the save. Let's see. Next you get Mike Awesome versus Canyon. Nash runs in late. Goes after Awesome. New Blood swarms. DQ. Sting and Flair make the save. Security comes in, and it's a shit show. Russo's running down Liz in the locker room, telling her to change. Says, oh, look at what you're wearing. You used to wear that with him, didn't you? Whatever got the pills. So next you get Luger versus Buff Bagwell. Most important thing to know about this match is that it's the halfway point of the pay-per-view. We see Russo in the locker room. Liz takes him out with the baseball bat and bounces. Liz comes to the ring. Buff immediately takes the bat from her, uses it on Luger. Liz powders, but she gets the bat back. Buff sets up the blockbuster. Liz hits him with the bat. Luger racks Buff for the win. Liz and Luger reunite. Pills for everybody. And then Chuck Palumbo shows up and takes out Luger. Who, do you ask? Chuck Palumbo? Yeah, he's just some random guy that was working out at the power plant, and they decided to debut him here because they figured it made sense. Because, yeah, everybody knows who Chuck Palumbo is. Mike Awesome got more of a reaction than this fucking guy. They're playing up that Chuck Palumbo has the same exact tights and knee pads as Luger. He helps Buff up. Palumbo racks Luger, and Liz is a slave again. Buff carries her off to the back. Hooray. Next, you get Shane Douglas versus Ric Flair. Apparently, Flair is still wrestling in plain clothes. Stang interferes, and Douglas wins. Commentary's calling out that it's Russo. Buff joins post-match for the beatdown. Flair cuts a promo post-match, and he wants 5 minutes with Russo. Luger comes in behind Stang, brings him to the ring. And then Russo comes running out to the ring. Yeah. Stang smashes this. He has and this is the best part because, Russo's from New York City. So they had to use a little statue of the Liberty, Statue of the Statue of Liberty, and smash it over Flair's head. Sting takes off the mask. It's David Flair. And Russo says start the clock. So now we get the 5 minutes that, Ric Flair wanted with Russo. David Flair and Russo beat down Flair with the bat. Nash comes to the ring. Daphne low blows Nash. Daphne has hot pink hair tonight. And yeah, what in the actual fuck? That's all I got to say about this. Vampiro versus Sting. I noticed Vampiro's music sounded like Cherub Rock by the Smashing Pumpkins. Just thought that was interesting. They both use a lead pipe throughout the match, and Sting's wins pretty quick for a pay-per-view match. We get Mike Tenay with David Arquette and DDP. Rex! Arquette says, we're going to stick to the plan. And DDP tells Arquette, stay out of Jeff Jarrett's way. Says, don't grab the belt, okay, monkey? And we cut to Nash in the back, and he's looking for Russo. Next, you get Kidman with Tori versus Hogan with Horace. Yeah, Horace is back again. Bischoff is the ref for this match. Kimberly joins commentary. Bischoff immediately sends Horace to the back. Why wouldn't you? Bischoff blocks the leg drop. Hogan drops Bischoff, then hits the leg drop. Bischoff comes in with a chair. Hogan takes it. Shot to Bischoff, then Kidman. Hogan gets the tables. I don't know if I've ever said that before in my life. Kidman hits Hogan with a chair shot. Bischoff is still down. There's no pin. Hogan ends up putting Bischoff through a table. Kidman tries to splash Hogan through a table. Hogan dodges it. Horace is back. Horace makes the saves. Who gives a shit? I don't even know what the fuck happens. All I know is that in the end, Russo's dragging Liz to the bus, and Russo steals a car from a ref to escape from Kevin Nash. Yeah. Main event, thank fucking God. It's Diamond Dallas Page versus Jeff Jarrett versus David Arquette for the world title. It's the 3-tier cage match from Ready to Rumble. The top level, I think it is, has guitars hanging there. On the second level, there's a kitchen sink because wrestling. Jarrett and DDP make it to level 2. Arquette just kind of chills in the first ring. Probably a good idea. Arquette eventually makes it to level 2 and then goes right to level 3. Mike Awesome spawns on level 2. It sounds like a fucking video game. Arquette gets to the top and to the title and just stays there. DDP hands a guitar to Arquette so he can man the fort. Arquette turns, hits DDP with the guitar, and Jarrett wins the world title. So now, the world title in WCW in the year 2000 has gone from Bret Hart to vacant, to Chris Benoit, to vacant, to Sid, to vacant, to Sid, to vacant, to Jeff Jarrett, to DDP, to David Arquette, to Jeff Jarrett, his second reign. That's the 11th title change, and we're only in May, early in May in 2000. That's 129 days into the year. That's an average of a world title change every 11.7 days. Yeah. And then Canyon comes out only to take a bump from the second level to the ramp. Good night, folks.
After these messages,
we'll be right back.
Caveman, need you buy orange string rope? Oh! Oh! You buy. If you no buy, I buy.
Hashtag not a sponsor. Jesus Christ. We still got Nitro. That would be May 8th in St. Louis, Missouri. We open up with a shot of Canyon in a hospital bed. He's got one of those halos like he's Ted Beneke, and DDP's just sitting at the bedside. This is from earlier in the day before the show. New blood visit, and they just start beating the shit out of DDP. And it ends with Kimberly pouring urine on DDP. Ew. New blood come to the ring, and Arquette's with them. They play footage of the build-up to Slamboree, and it was all planned that Arquette would turn. And Bischoff calls out the marks who are complaining, saying it was a disgrace putting the title on Arquette. And he did it to screw DDP. Arquette's dressed like a pimp, and he tries to cut this heel promo where he just says, "Shut up! What's up?" As you unfortunately just heard before we started the wars. Sorry, that one ruined me a little bit. Hold on 1 second. It's fucking ruins. Jeff Jarrett cuts a promo, and we see a car arriving to the arena. It's DDP. DDP comes out, dumps Awesome, dumps the cat who's there, and now apparently he's part of the New Blood. He gets a hold of Arquette and hits a cutter on him. Cat, Mike Awesome, Jeff Jarrett triple team him. Lights go out. Sting's music hits, makes the save, and then more New Blood come to the ring, and then Chronic make the save, and then we get a random shot of some blonde in the crowd with some nice milkers. Because wrestling. Gene's with the New Blood. They're going to have a stretcher match, Mike Awesome versus DDP, and then we're going to have Sting versus Jeff Jarrett. Gene says, well, is the title going to be online? And Bischoff says, hell yeah. And Jeff Jarrett's not too happy about that. Next, we see Screaming Norman Smiley in the back with Ralphus. Smiley's freaking out because Bischoff said that he has to beat Funk tonight or he's out of WCW. So we get that match again. Smiley starts just driving a golf cart randomly around the back of the arena. Just like got lost or didn't know how to drive it or turn. I don't know. Funk wins, so apparently Smiley's out. We'll see if that actually happens. Back from break, Flair comes to the ring. He has the NWA title with him. He says it was Funk, then Harley Race, then Dusty, then my turn. We all wanted this title. Then he pulls up Goldie. He says it's just a copy. You debuted that belt, you dumbass. He calls out his son David, says you want to be David Fleer, not David Flair. That's their real last name for those of you who don't know. Calls David out to the ring, who comes out with Daphne. Her hair's black again. David still has his Statue of Liberty figurine. Russo's with him. Russo says they're making the shirts now. I don't know what that means. Oh, they're making the shirts now. Tradition sucks. I spit in the face of tradition, obviously. And he says, I made a list of the people whose face I spit in. Dory Funk Jr., Dick the Bruiser, etc., etc. And Sam Mushnick. If you don't know, he's a booker from St. Louis. Russo says he's the father David never had. And David just repeats over and over, I'm mad at you, Dad. And Russo says it's David versus Rick at Great American Bash. But Ric Flair won the Battle Royale that gave him the title match against Jeff Jarrett at Great American Bash. Okay. And then Ric Flair with, I mean, this is probably the best part of the show. Ric Flair pulls out his cell phone. He says, I'm going to call Vince McMahon right now. You'll be on Raw next week. That was fucking brilliant. I love that shit. That would not have happened. I don't care how powerful Ric Flair is. That shit wasn't going to happen. So David hugs Rick and then blindsides him with the statue. Commentary calls out the Rolex that Russo's been wearing as a chain. It's Flair's that he stole from him. That's what it was. Yeah. So there's that. Flair's leaving the arena after, says he's done, and Luger's running him down like, we got to do something. Flair's like, nah, I'm done. And he bounces. Chuck Palumbo was back. He comes to the ring. They're apparently calling him the main event. Sure. He comes to the ring in Luger's gear to Luger's music. He's even got the little bar that you bend, you know, that Luger used to bring. He looks like a kid doing a promo in wrestling school. He looks like he's on that fucking LFG show. Wants a match with Luger tonight. Luger and Liz come to the ring. Tells Liz to stay on the ramp. Luger takes it to Palumbo, but R&B security come to the ring and take Liz away. Luger's able to take him out, but Palumbo blindsides Luger, and Liz gets dragged away, so she's a slave again. Cut to the back. Russo tells everybody to leave, wants to speak to Liz alone, and tells Daphne to stay as well. Oh, shit. Russo says, I'm doing this for you. You're going to live up to this contract, and you're going to wrestle Daphne tonight. You win, I rip up the contract. If not, I own you, and it will get tougher from here. And he just starts pulling out random gear for Liz. Next, you get Sean Stasiak versus Captain Rection with Kurt Hennig. Jesus fucking Christ. Hennig apparently turns halfway through and helps Stasiak win and then just bounces. Then the Wolfpack music plays. Nash comes out, but Miss Hancock's standing at the top of the ramp. Nash jumps Stasiak, calls out Russo, says, you must have been smoking the Chronic to hit me with a bat. You didn't kill me, so you got to face me tonight. I thought we were friends. I'm the one that got you the job down here. Grab your balls and come on down. Then the Filthy Animals come out because they're apparently back. Kidman says, you're the low man on the scrotum pole. Russo says, too busy to deal with a washed-up wrestler like you, but I'll cut you down tonight. This kid don't play. Conan says, screw you and the Wolfpack. You get ready to toss our salad and peel our potatoes. What the fuck are you on about? They take out Nash's knee. Hogan makes the save. Side note, I was hoping this is where the blood would miss Nash. That happened on Thunder. So we won't be reviewing that, but just look up that clip. It's hilarious. Nash says, how about me and Hogan in a street fight, St. Louis style? Hogan says, we're going to go take a Russo and wipe our Bischoff. Again, what are you talking about? Next, you get DDP versus Mike Awesome in a stretcher match. Kimberly and Bischoff are on commentary. Kimberly still wants her divorce papers signed, goes up to the apron. DDP rips him up. DDP gets beaten down, bleeding, put through a table, and then Bischoff grabs his hand to make him sign the torn-up divorce papers. I don't think it works that way. DDP gets stretchered to the back. Awesome wins. Hooray. Scott Steiner's in the back with the girls. He wants Russo comes in and wants Scott Steiner to talk Nash down. Scott says, I do what I want when I want. Touch me again, I'll break your arms. Then we see Russo with Tank Abbott. Steiner comes out, cuts a promo, calls out Booker. Abbott slides into the ring, low blows Steiner. KO punches him and bounces. Next, for some reason I have a lot of notes on this one. I don't know why. It's the Mama Lukes versus Harlem Heat 2000 versus the Harris Brothers versus Chronic and a 4-way for the tag titles. Buff and Shane Douglas join commentary. We see Scott Steiner freaking out backstage. Buff and Douglas end up interfering, but Chronic retain anyway. Scott Steiner comes to the ring, merge anyone he can get his hands on, calls out Russo and Tank Abbott, says he's not going anywhere till he shows up, and he says, stop gumming Russo in the back and come out here. Ew. Just sits in a chair in the middle of the ring. Abbott talks to Dillinger and says, don't screw this up. We cut to break, we come back from break, and Tank Abbott's doing the Goldberg entrance, complete with the music. Scott Steiner gets Abbott in a choke, and Rick Steiner comes out to try to stop him. And then Rick attacks Scott. It's a DQ. It's funny. The best part about this is that when Rick comes in, he's wearing jeans or jorts or whatever. And you can see he has a can of Skull in his back pocket. Next, you get Liz versus Daphne. Hooray! And then Medusa comes to the ring. Hooray! It's a DQ. And then Mona makes a save. Hooray! And then Mona and Medusa fight. And Liz grabs a chair and hits Medusa. And then R&B security meet her on the ramps. Take her to the back. I mean, Liz won by DQ, right? So she's out of her contract? Certainly. Probably not. We'll see next week. Hogan and Nash versus the Filthy Animals in a street fight. Then Hoovy randomly comes to the ring. And Shivani even said himself for no apparent reason. Hoovy just stands on the commentary desk. Awesome gets involved. Hoovy drop kicks Nash as Hogan chases the animals to the back. Horace jumps Awesome. Hogan gets jumped and put in the trunk of a car, and the animals drive off. Meanwhile, Nash powerbombs Hoovy, and we cut to the animals trying to escape, but they're blocked by a Goldberg monster truck. Come back from break. Hogan's shown escaping the trunk. Shivani goes, who unlocked the trunk? That's a good question. But why answer that? Let's just go to the main event. It's Jeff Jarrett versus Sting for the world title. Sting gets the deathlock on. Vampiro comes through the ring again, pulls him down. We see the steam or the fire extinguisher go off. Vampiro drags Sting back up. They're both covered in the red substance, as Shivani likes to say, and Jarrett gets the pin to retain. It's a shit show brawl between the New Blood and the Millionaires Club, and then we see the Goldberg monster truck running over Abbott's car. We never see Goldberg. They wonder who's in there, though, and good night, folks. Thank fucking God.
After these messages,
we'll be right back.
You know you want this jelly in your belly. I'm so smelly. You know you want this jelly in your belly. I'm so ready.
My God. Hashtag not a sponsor. Ooh. Sorry for speed reading. I'm not trying to do the Micro Machines thing, but for Christ's sake, you know. Raw's in Long Island. We're 2 weeks away from Judgment Day. Edge and Christian come to the ring with APA, and they issue an open challenge. It was funny. Lillian Garcia was wearing a zebra print shirt. I thought she was a ref for a second. APA say they're going to give Edge and Christian a refund for their protection services because they're accepting the challenge. And Edge and Christian win by DQ anyway. Then Boss Man and Buchanan come in post-match to beat down the APA. Next, you get the McMahon-Helmsley regime to the ring. It's at this point I realized that the second scroll wheel on my mouse could be used to scrub through the video. That's a fucking game changer right there. Triple H apologizes for Earl Hebner. They beat him down on SmackDown. He says his eyes are swollen shut, his jaw is broken. It could have been avoided if he kept his nose out of our business. And he wants to show the fans what happens when you cross the regime. Kevin Dunn, roll the footage. And we see footage of Hebner getting his ass kicked on SmackDown. Cuts a promo on The Rock. Judgment Day is coming. There's no Austin, there's no Linda McMahon, and there's no Hebner. So let's up the ante. Iron Man match. There was no reaction to that whatsoever. The crowd was like, oh, okay. Vince gets the mic, immediately cut off by Jericho's music. Jericho won the IC title back from Benoit on SmackDown. He calls Vince Vance McMahon. Fucking great. Wants to apologize to Vance for being impulsive after punching him in the face. Says Shane is what the fans say is wussy. And Stephanie's a filthy, dirty, disgusting, the routine. Says Vince does everything he does because he has a small penis. Maybe that's why he started shitting on women's heads. The regime starts to go kick his ass, but Jericho gets back up from Big Show, the Dudleys, and Rikishi. Vince says Jericho will defend his title against Angle tonight and says, I guarantee you will not leave with that title. Shane starts to call out Big Show. Vince says, as far as the Dudleys are concerned, a table match against Briscoe. Patterson starts laughing. And Rikishi, you gave Patterson a stinky face. I'm sure that's not the first time he said that. You're going to be facing Pat Patterson tonight. This isn't as fun without hearing the professor start cackling. Next, you get Angle versus Jericho for the IC title. Angle says he's happy to defend the honor of Stephanie McMahon because she has class, unlike you people in Long Island. I'd say some matches you just watch. This is like the third or fourth time we've seen this match, I feel like. But it was still good. This is a solid match. If you're going to stop and watch this one. Jericho retains with the walls. Next, Show confronts Shane in his room, grabs him by the throat. Shane says, hey, man, I just wanted to motivate you. I just wanted to remind everybody of who you are. And you know what? You're going to get an IC title shot tonight, even though we just came from the IC title match. Shane's phone rings, and he says, yeah, man, it's my stockbroker. All right, man, I'll talk to you later. It was probably Ric Flair. Jones like, fine, I got you. Next, you get Eddie with Chyna versus the Godfather. Godfather starts kicking it to Chyna and said, you look smoking in your bra and panties when Lita ripped that dress off. I got an offer for you. I'll get rid of all these hoes if you come join the hoe train. Chyna says, I don't give a damn, and smashes him with the roses. Chyna distracts the ref. D-Lo comes in, hits a pop-up powerbomb on Godfather, and Eddie gets the pin. So next you get another handicap match because Attitude Era. It's the Dudleys versus Gerald Briscoe. Briscoe comes out to Real American, but he introduces his tag partners, TNA. Doesn't matter, though, because Test eats a 3D through a table. Dudleys win. Road Dogg, X-Pac come out post-match. Briscoe gets a table, and Briscoe hits a splash to Bubba through the table and takes off his shirt and flexes to Real American. Already a better show than fucking Nitro. Next, you get Jericho's second title defense of the night against Big Show. On the Tron, we see footage of Shane after Show left his locker room. Says to his broker, he's like, yeah, I got Show wrapped around my finger. Runs him down, says, I own this guy. So Show chases Shane to the back and gets counted out. There you go. Next, you get Vince with Stephanie. Stephanie's not happy that Jericho's still the champ. So Vince books a third IC title match for tonight, this time against Benoit. And Vince says, give me a kiss. And she does, on the lips again. Ew. Next, you get Too Cool versus Boss Man and Buchanan. Too Cool get the win. And the heels beat down Too Cool post-match. APA make the save, and we get a dance party from Too Cool. Already a better show. Malenko and Saturn are arguing backstage. Malenko says, hey, man, we're even. Benoit breaks it up, kind of gives him the what for. And then Eddie comes in sounding drunk as hell, doing the way over-the-top Mexican accent. So next you get Malenko and Saturn versus the Hardys. Saturn accidentally super kicks Malenko, allows Jeff to hit the Swanton Bomb for the win. Malenko and Saturn argue. Eddie and Chyna come in to break it up. Malenko hits a clothesline to Chyna. Oh, and the what the fuck moment of the night for the WWF. It's Rikishi versus Pat Patterson. Vince comes to the ramp with Briscoe, says, Patterson's got tag partners. It's Road Dogg and X-Pac, so we get another handicap match because Attitude Era. Patterson hits a heat shot to Rikishi. It's a DQ, and they set up Rikishi for Patterson to give him a stink face. Patterson drops trowel. He is wearing tighty-whities, and don't worry, there are no ring boys around. And Pat Patterson has the biggest skid mark of all time. Ew. Hits the stink face to Rikishi. Ew. And then Too Cool comes in to run off the heels. Great. Main event, Triple H comes to the ring as the ref for the Jericho vs. Benoit IC title match. This is round 3 for Jericho. Hit locks in the walls. Triple H goes and talks to Stephanie as Benoit's tapping out, so he can't call the bell. Jericho goes after Triple H. Benoit locks in the crippler, and Triple H calls for the bell right away, even though Jericho didn't tap, because screw job. DX come in post-match for the beatdown. Big Show, Dudley's too cool, and Rikishi make the save, and that's how we end the night, and it's how we end most Raws, with a fucking shit show like that. That was very trying. This is a lot more difficult when it's just me reading the results. When I've got the professor to interrupt me constantly, it kind of paces me a little bit better. So we'll get there, though. But what we're going to get to next is something I'm very excited. It's History Lesson with ODM, a.k.a. the top topic. Play the bumper.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for...
Best there is, the best there was, and the best that there ever will be. Hold 2, arm bar.
Sodas rule. Yeah, they do.
Hold 3, the moss-covered, 3-handle family granunzel.
It's me, Austin! Just when they think they ain't got the answers, I change the questions.
I did it for The Rock.
This week's top topic.
You know something, Mean Gene? John Cena.
Wrestling's not fake.
The Rolex wearing one. Diamond ring wearing one. Kiss stealing. Woo. Wheeling dealing. One. Limousine riding. One. Jet flying. One. Son of a gun. Woo.
Sierra Hotel. India. Echo. Lima. Delta. Shield.
If you smell.
The following ranking order and final decisions are a completely bias-based order, based off The Professor and ODM made it. And as always, they like to let you know they have not worked in the business, but have been lifelong invested fans, much like you, our listeners. With not only their opinions involved, but with countless amount of hours of research done each week, they make sure to provide proper facts and history to back it up. However, they do know that your opinion may vary from theirs. If there is anything you want to chat about, bring to their attention. If there is something they missed or forgot, or you just want to let them know they are out of their freaking minds, feel free to shoot them a message on Facebook or Twitter, or email them at thetopofwrestling@gmail.com. As always, they do appreciate all feedback and continued support. At the end of the day, they want to make sure that you do see the best of the best before you die. And now, this week's top topic.
The suspense is killing you, I know. Hopefully it lasted. Because today's top topic, we're going to be talking about Black Saturday. If you're not familiar with Black Saturday, it's a lot of people say it was kind of like the death of the territories. It certainly was a low blow, you could say that. But Black Saturday is July 14th, 1984. That's when Vince McMahon showed up on World Championship Wrestling, which was the TV show for Georgia Championship Wrestling at the time. He took over the time slot and the company, and not a lot of people knew, and he kind of just showed up on TV, and people were like, what the fuck? So a little backstory, NWA was kind of like the Mafia. It was kind of, once a year they'd get together, like the Five Families meeting, and the other promoters, just figured Vince was a hotshot kid, just trying to be, as Cornette said, the Walt Disney of wrestling. But they would meet once a year, just go over the booking. They would share talent. I mean, that's just the way it was. And that's why that was the NWA title. It could be in any promotion. It's how they ran things. Jim Barnett was the promoter of Georgia Championship Wrestling. He was a money man with lots of connections. He eventually made it into the NWA boardroom. He was kind of held back for a while. The commission didn't want him, according to Meltzer, because he was gay. That would make sense. A bunch of Southern good old boys. They don't want no gay people in their boardroom. But Barnett was able to make it. And he wasn't really even a wrestling. He was a great promoter. He had a lot of connections. He needed to talk to somebody. He knew the person. But he wasn't really much of a wrestling fan so much. But he was good at what he did. Georgia Championship Wrestling and World Championship Wrestling, their TV show, was like the first successful cable TV program. That's because Ted Turner took it to his local station. And they had a weekly TV show that was taped in Atlanta. And all the big names went there. Harley Race. I'm not actually even sure if it was Harley Race, but Dusty was there. Ric Flair was there. All your big names went there because it was TV time on cable TV, which didn't really happen back then. So that show, Georgia Championship Wrestling, had premiered in the Atlanta-based WTBS in 1972. Turner purchased the rights to air the program from a competing station. In 76, GCW became the first National Wrestling Alliance territory to earn a national cable TV contract. This is before it was the Superstation. In 82, GCW renamed its weekly program to World Championship Wrestling, a name the entire promotion would grow to be identified by. And it was hosted by Gordon Soley. It was just good old wrestling, but it was on cable TV. And Ole Anderson was the booker for GCW. This is before the whole Black Scorpion debacle. And he ended up buying a share in GCW, and the Briscoe brothers did as well. The Briscoe brothers, I can't believe I'm spacing on the names right now. But anyway, the Briscoe brothers. Other owners in the promotion were Paul Jones, who was the original promoter, a Columbus promoter, Fred Ward, his son-in-law, Ralph Freed, and Jim Barnett's business partner, Jim Oates. Those were the other owners. Ole had a suspicion that the books weren't accurate. He questioned Barnett, and the story goes that Jim Barnett was in Hong Kong, and Ole raided the office to take a look at the books and sees Barnett spending all this money from the company on, private chefs and limo drivers and expensive phone bills. I'll take a break here to say I'm getting this information from the Dark Side of the Ring episode, from Wikipedia, and from Jim Cornette's podcast. That is where I'm getting this information from. So a lot of this is coming from Cornette himself and other talking heads on that particular episode. So the owners of GCW had a meeting, and Barnett handed out checks from the proceeds of a calendar they were selling. Ole addressed everybody after Barnett left and basically assumed leadership at GCW. He handed the checks to one of the people that worked for them and said, "Put these back in the bank. I'm running the show now." And Ole went down to Barnett's penthouse with a few others and told Barnett, "You're going to vote me as the head of GCW or we're going to toss you off this balcony." Nobody's doubting that Ole Anderson's a tough guy, but Barnett had true power with his connections and his money. So in 83, Ole starts shaping GCW in his image. Around the same time, Vince McMahon just bought the WWF from his father. Barnett got forced out, so Barnett went to work for Vince. And Vince and Jim Barnett go to the next NWA meeting and give their resignation to the commission. And Vince starts sniping TV from Georgia Championship Wrestling. Vince had All-American Wrestling on USA, and basically he would play tapes from other promotions. The selling fact being like, "Hey man, I've got this cable TV show. Send me tapes of your stars. I can put it on there, and your stars are going to get a brand new audience that they didn't have before." What he was really doing was scouting talent to see who he wanted to snipe from the other promotions. There was only one other major cable television contract at the time, and that was with Southwest Championship Wrestling. And Vince purchased that. It was a Sunday morning USA Network time slot, and he used All-American Wrestling program to put on that time slot. Let's see. And then he also ended up doing Tuesday Night Titans on the USA Network. So Vince is obviously seeing cable as the future, and he's really just trying to get as much TV time as he can. And he's scooping up more. And basically GCW was the last standout. And at the time, business wasn't doing that great. They weren't bringing in the local talent like they used to. So they were going to plan a shareholders meeting for GCW, but the lawyers scrapped it. Everyone wanted to buy/force Ole out. So apparently they went to the bar and they were confronted by Ole, and the Briscoes told him, "Hey, listen, we're not getting dividends. We want a buyout." Ole tells him, "Well, there's not enough in the bank for the buyout. We give it a little bit of time. I can get some money together, and I can pay you your dividends and buy out." And apparently Ole just went batshit crazy and said he wanted to do a blood oath. This is according to Gerald Briscoe. And just gigs himself and convinced the Briscoes to do the same, and they shook on blood. And the Briscoes are just trying to focus on increasing their income. Ole had stopped paying the Briscoes. Briscoes just started shopping their shares around. They started with Barnett. Barnett said, "No, I don't want them, but I know somebody who does." And they point him towards Vince. Vince tells Barnett, "I want 51% of stock in GCW." He wants it so he can buy the promotion and get their TV time. Naturally, Barnett, having all his connections and knowing basically everybody in the game at that point, was able to facilitate that to the point where Vince ends up with a 67% ownership of Georgia Championship Wrestling. Ole Anderson is dealing with the death of his mother, and he gets a call saying, yeah, Vince bought the company out from under you. Apparently, he tried to fight it with the lawyers, but after a few months, it just faded. And Cornette tells this story. You got to look this up. It's great. Ole ends up meeting Vince, probably on set, where they would tape the program. And Vince says, oh, hi, Ole. I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Linda. And Ole says, fuck you and fuck Linda. It's way better when Cornette does it. But on Saturday, July 14th, 1984, Vince McMahon just appears on World Championship Wrestling. This is how most people in the company found out that it was sold. And then Vince pretty much fired everybody. And instead of showing the taped wrestling that they did in the studio, he just played videotapes from WWF events at house shows at the Garden. And the fans weren't happy. They wanted their wrestling. And instead, they got the WWF. Briscoe calls it Green Saturday. I guess he was a stooge from the get-go. On the dark side, they talk about Ole was reportedly hiring a hitman to go after the Briscoes. And eventually, Ole is able to sell his shares to Vince and say, fuck it, let me cash out too. And starts his own promotion. Ole goes to Ted Turner. He wants another time slot, and he gets Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. Meanwhile, a year later, Vince is not doing well in this new market. They want their wrestling. They don't want Vince's wrestling. So he has Barnett find a buyer, and he finds Jim Crockett, and he sells that time slot that he got when he bought GCW for $1 million. He used that $1 million to fund the very first WrestleMania, which is a whole different story as it relates to the territories. I'm not going to get into that. The thing is like, all of this led to other wrestling promotions gaining national cable TV contracts. The AWA debuted on ESPN in 1985, and they were there until they folded in 91. World Class Championship Wrestling joined ESPN in 86, and the USWA also got on USA, as well as the GWF. This is often talked about as being the death of the territories, and it certainly contributed, as Vince controlling the TV distribution at that point definitely impacted the territories, right? Because why do a local house show that you could usually get good money on when you could just go somewhere where you can be on TV? Crockett had 3 different reigns as NWA president, and he started buying out the remaining territories as part of Jim Crockett Promotions. At the end, he had acquired 6 NWA promotions, and the NWA really ceased to exist, but not really, because Jim Crockett Promotions started promoting themselves as the NWA. So it's this really weird thing where the NWA kind of died but stayed alive at the same time. It's this really weird paradox, because Crockett kind of came in behind Vince and just said, well, I'll sweep up what's left and I'll keep it the NWA, even though it's not the NWA anymore. In 88, this whole shit show came back for a full circle, because Jim Barnett helped broker a deal between Crockett and Turner to sell Jim Crockett Promotions / the NWA to Ted Turner. And it was renamed World Championship Wrestling, the same name used by Georgia Championship Wrestling for their TV show. The rest, as they say, is history. Vince bought Georgia Vince bought Georgia Championship Wrestling in order to get their time slot, which was for their TV show, which was called World Championship Wrestling. Then he sold it to Crockett a year later. 16 years after that, he bought the remnants of the NWA and GCW, which was now World Championship Wrestling. Vince McMahon bought World Championship Wrestling in one form or another twice. That's Vince McMahon for you. Quite a sordid story, to say the least. I found that shit interesting as fuck, and that's just the surface. I'm sure if you start reading books and just going a deeper dive, there's probably a lot more beneath the surface here. And again, there's still the whole thing about WrestleMania 1 conflicting with Starrcade. That's a whole different thing. Maybe we'll do that one another time, but There's your top topic. I hope you enjoyed the little history lesson with ODM. And typically, this is where the professor would turn it back over to me for my final thoughts. And all my final thoughts is, I hope I didn't bore you to death. Yeah, that's all I got. Good night, folks. The Top of Wrestling Podcast is brought to you by The Top of Wrestling Podcast. Your hosts are the Professor Mark Fantasia and ODM, the Doc, Joe Rizzo. Feel free to reach out to the show by email at thetopofwrestling@gmail.com, on their Facebook page, Twitter page, Instagram page. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. You can listen to the show on most popular platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, Amazon Music, Pandora, and YouTube. Without your continued support, it would be just some guys talking wrestling, which is pretty much what it is anyway. Good night, folks. Good wrestling. Rooney.
I saw it on TV. I guess it'll be one empty seat when I wrestle at Wembley. I used to tear my shirt, but now you tore my heart. I knew you were a Hulkamaniac right from the very start.
Right from the start, you were my friend.
I'll see
this is not the end.
When the Hulkster comes to heaven,
Heaven, heaven, heaven,
we'll tag up again.
again, again. The world just explodes.
Another Hulkamaniac,
A friend to the end. I'll see you again.
I wish Hulk's love could bring you back again.
You were my friend.
I'll see you again.
I will see you again.
When I climb back in the ring, you know we'll win this fight. I wish you were here at ringside to cheer me on tonight. The spotlight now grows dim, and now it's not on me. The prayers we said together are still our guarantee.
You were my friend.
I'll see
This
you
is not the
again.
end.
When the Hulkster comes to heaven,
Heaven, heaven, heaven.
we'll tag up again.
Again, again. The world just knows.
Another Hulkamaniac,
A friend to the end. I'll see you again.
I wish Hulk's love when I'll see you again.
I'll see you
when the whole still comes to heaven. We'll tag up again. The world just lost another Hulkamaniac. I wish lost love could bring you back again.
bring you back again.
The world just lost Hulkamaniac. I wish lost love
His love,
bring you back again.
His love.
Cotton, the fabric of life.